In today's lesson, we are going to learn about combining like terms using algebra tiles. So let's talk for a minute about algebra tiles. When you get to class tomorrow, you'll receive a bag of little shapes that we call algebra tiles. They're a type of learning tool called a manipulative that will help you understand a concept. And in the bag, you'll have three sizes of tiles. You'll have small squares like this. They will be yellow on one side and red on the back. And then rectangles like this that are green on one side and red on the back. And then large squares like this that are blue on one side and red on the back. And each of these different types of tile has a value. The little squares have a value of 1. So we can use them if we just want to count something up. Like if we want to use algebra tiles to represent the number 3, then we can take 3 of the algebra tiles, 1, 2, 3, and that represents the number 3. Now the red side is there to represent a negative number. So if we wanted this to be a negative 3, then we could just flip the 3 tiles over, and then we would have 3 red tiles representing negative 3. Now, sometimes in algebra class, we have a quantity of something where we don't know the number. We don't know how many there are. We don't know the value or the cost or the speed. And so we want to figure it out. And so we can use our math skills, and we can put a letter in place of the number until we figure out what the number is. That's called a variable. And one of the variables that we like to use a lot is x. And so this green rectangular tile represents x. It represents the thing that we don't know. And of course, if that's x, then the red side is going to be negative x. So let's model something using the x and the numbers. Let's look at this equation here. Expression, negative 3x plus 4. If I want to model the negative part, that's going to be the red side of the x tiles, and I have 3 of them. So I have 3 x's, and you have the number right next to the letter like that. That's multiplication, and so we know if we multiply 3 times x, we have 3 x's, and it's got a negative sign, so we'll have them on the red side for negative. And then add 4, so the 4 will be these 4 yellow tiles, the 4 small squares that represent the number 1. Negative 3 x's and 4 1's. Last, we have these large squares, and you might have noticed, and I'm going to point this out, that the rectangle, the x, is the same height as the square. And if we were to flip this over on its side, you see that it's also the same width as the square, because as you know, square has all 4 sides the same. And when we look at the area of a square, we know that that is x times x, or x to the second power. X squared is the area of the square, and x squared as a term in an expression is going to be represented by this big blue tile, and the red side is the negative x squared. So if I wanted to represent this expression, x squared plus 2x minus 3, I'll use x squared, one big large blue tile. I'll use 2 x's, so here's the x and another x. And then this is minus 3. Subtraction is the same as adding a negative number. If I'm going to subtract 3, then I'm going to have 3 red tiles. So this is x squared plus 2x minus 3. So now that we've been oriented to using algebra tiles, we can move on to combining like terms using algebra tiles.